Once again, Mr. Dog Poop's maintenance man gets stuck with an impossible task. Even though Mr. Dog Poop is an old, potty-mouthed, beer-drinking bully,
Oh, shit!
oh, man, he has a heart of gold. So when a local student filmmaker called and asked if he could provide 3 freestanding stage doors for a student film, of course Mr. Dog Poop said yes. The problem is, we didn't have any stage doors. So he asked me to build them, and just to make it a little more impossible, he needed them in 3 days. Impossible? Probably. But I did it, and I had them to the set on time. Now I'm going to show you how I did it, and how you can easily make your own freestanding stage doors for your own production. The first thing I needed was 3 doors. So I hopped on Craigslist and found 3 doors for 40 bucks each. Next, I had to figure out how to get them to stand up and function, which is not as easy as it sounds. The scenes called for freestanding door, and the director did not want the support structure to be visible. So how do I make something this big, stand up, swing open and close, without any visible support? Another issue was the budget. It's for a student film. So there is no budget, meaning whatever it cost was coming out of Mr. Dog Poop's pocket. And getting Mr. Dog Poop to spend money is no easy task. So here I am, 3 doors, no money, and 3 days to convert them into working freestanding set doors. My first idea was to build a wooden frame using 1-inch dowel pins to strengthen the corners. But the wood split, the glue got on everything, and caused huge gaps in the joints that were just plain hideous. I tried covering the gaps with metal plates, but that just made it worse. I didn't want the frame to be big and bulky, but without strong support, the entire frame could collapse on set while the actors were going through them. So I decided to move on to plan B, a metal frame. But rather than a full metal frame, I decided to just build the base out of metal and use 2x4 wood frame around the door. So I made the first prototype of the door frame. Definitely needs a little more work, but the idea seems okay. What we need is a base, and I'm going to use some steel, 2-inch by 1/2 inch. I think that's 2-inch, 1.5, 2 inches by 1/2 inch. We're going to come up the sides with 3/16, about 6 inches to hold it. Put one on the front, one on the back. We'll weld all these pieces together, make that a stand, and then put some cross braces, and hopefully that'll hold the door up straight and we'll be able to open and close it. And then we'll go ahead and get the rest of the door hardware on. So I need 35.25. That's gonna be the bottom piece. We're gonna need 4 6-inch pieces. I'm going to use a stick welder to weld it. We're going to bring this out to the ends. We're going to weld it here and on the bottom. Same thing here. We'll weld it inside and on the bottom. And these two will be able to squeeze together. When we put our end plate on here, to bolt a 2x4 to, we're going to weld it here and here. We're not going to weld it on both sides here because it won't allow us to squeeze the 2x4 in. So we're going to weld it here and then up this side, probably on the bottom. That piece, probably a little bit longer, will have holes in here that we can attach through the 2x4. Here, it's going to go here and there. So I stacked up 4 plates and drilled 1 hole, lined them up, and we're going to go ahead and put a bolt in that hole so that the holes are all lined up, and the bolt becomes our clamp holding it all together from moving. Our second hole is going to be right there.
Now we have the 4 plates for our base, and the holes are lined up completely. And as long as we put bolts through here, when we weld it to the plate, everything will line up. So we're going to do the same thing with the 2 long plates. If everything clamped in place the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use a cheap Harbor Freight stick welder. I'm going to tack this together. Okay, so that should be tacked together. I'll go ahead and remove these clamps. So I'm going to use this as a spacer so we have our distance correct, and this piece is going to be, this back piece is going to be welded front and back so it's flexible and can squeeze, but the front piece will be welded solidly to this piece, and then we'll weld across the inside so that piece will be braced up. Fucking son of a bitch. So this front piece, or one of the sides, is going to be welded completely to the plate, and the other one is not. It's going to allow us to squeeze these together. They'll actually move. If we had welded it, it would be a lot harder. Put our door frame in there. Attach boards here on the bottom for support to keep it from tipping this way or that way. And then we'll drill it out, screw them in. So next thing to do is lay out the other side and weld it, and then put our door frame in and see if it holds it up. So that's our door frame. We've got to get it level. We don't have perfectly level ground here, but I'm going to cut 2 2x4s and attach those to the bottom plates, and then otherwise this is going to tip. So let's get our 8-foot 2x4, cut 2 4-foot sections. So we're going to attach these here and here. So we'll use the level to try to get it level, and then once it's in the studio, we'll have to use shims. But we want to get it square. Really want the door frame on the ground. So the next step is to actually attach these boards and then drill through the main frame and put bolts in. We're going to drill these through. I'm going to use 5/16 bolts because I happen to have a shitload of them. So we got a few adjustments to make. This is a little bit tight here, so I'm going to have to shave some off of it, push that in. This also is crooked. We didn't measure the bottom after we made this debacle up here, but we'll have to adjust it up and down in the frame a little bit. Put a hinge on it, put a door handle on it, and I think it'll work. So we did make some changes. Our first frame was a complete failure. And we learned that building the base first made a lot more sense. Then we attached the door by the hinges to one side. We put that beam in, and then using a 1/2-inch board, put that across the bottom as a spacer. Now we know that this is square with the bottom. Then taking the second board, putting it in, and making sure we have an even space down this side, we'll take a board across the top and simply clamp it with some clamps, drill some holes in it, bolt it together. Now we decided to stain everything if you're gonna do this, stain all your wood, paint all your wood, everything before you put it together. You will have some cuts that you'll have to go back and touch up. But instead of trying to paint all this in one piece, pre-paint it, save yourself a lot of time. So we added this piece because we put these boards on and they were above the door. And we realized when you close the door, it needs something to push against. Normally there's a jamb here that would stop it. But since we don't have that, we added this piece, which came out pretty nice as a little decoration. And that hits the door so that it actually stops it from moving forward. So Mr. Dog Poop sent me out to some location. First, he made me build doors. Now he makes me come out, stand them up, help the people, and I'm sitting around in an empty studio set. So it was a long 3 days and a long day on the set. But the doors survived. They survived hundreds of students passing through them, opening them, closing them. They didn't fall over. That's always good. And they're still working. So if you need to build stage doors or movie doors, it's a pretty good design. It keeps all the supports mostly out of the scene. These were tested pretty heavily on the set by zombies and students. It is a little flexible. You could add some more strength to it by making this a T and simply putting some screws in here going up over the top and down the other side. It's going to make it a little bit heavier and harder to move. But if you need more stability this way, that will do it. Overall, it wasn't a bad design. 3 days of hell out in 100-degree heat with me and the video guy trying to put these things together. It's kind of crazy what I do for Mr. Dog Poop. This is a pretty good design. Inexpensive and durable, and now student tested and Dog Poop approved. Mr. Dog Poop wanted me to build a couple doors for a movie set that he's working on. Fuck, I tried to pull it open.